Okay, we are going to go ahead and get started. My name's Melissa Sloan, and I'm the recruiting manager over at MCSG. We also have Christina Schneider, our ops and HR manager. We have Reed Strickland and Dakota, who are also in recruiting. So basically, let's kind of go to the second slide real quick. The agenda for today, we're going to review position descriptions. We'll go over labor categories, salary discussion, how to submit candidates, or what happens with what we do and what you guys do with candidate submission, the interview process, as well as the post-interview process. We'll be kind of running through some things verbally, and then we're also going to be showing you how to submit a job posting request and all the details that you guys will be able to provide us, which are going to be super helpful with kind of recruiting for these roles. So let's start with the position description section. I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Reed to kind of go through that with you.
Hey guys, hope everyone's having a good day. So I want to go through these position descriptions with you. So on your right-hand screen, this is just an example of what we want this to look like. So you've of course got your job classification, which would be your job title. So, you know, it could be configuration manager, ground software, whatever it needs to be, albeit. So under that, you've got your job summary. So that's where you're going to put your short description of the position, basically what this person would be doing in that role, to kind of sum it up. So that way, anytime a candidate is on our positions, they can just read that, because normally when someone's applying, you know, they're not reading the whole thing. They might read it for, you know, 15, 30 seconds and go, okay, this is for me. So we want that to have as much information that could be useful for the candidate to know in that job summary. Next, we have primary duties. So primary duties, I mean, it's kind of speaks for itself here. You're going to put everything that you'd be doing in this role. So if they're configuring, doing software development, C++, whatever it be, you're going to include it into that primary duties. Under that, we've got our requirements. So I definitely want to go in depth into the requirements. So here it says, you know, any required skills, experience, except degree, because we've got the degree here under education or certification. So, you know, looking back at some of the job requirements, you know, we really need it to have every single detail in this job requirements that you guys want. So when us recruiters are going through and talking to these candidates, we are mostly going through these requirements, seeing that they meet every single thing. If not, we're trying to get to the 70%. So whenever we're sending candidates, you know, we're looking for that 70%, but let's say, you know, we send a candidate and we get the candidate sent back to us because they're missing XYZ. Well, we go to the requirement and unfortunately it might not be there. So that's, you know, where it's pertinent to make sure that we've got every single detail that you require for that role under that requirement. So look, I mean, just for example, looking back, you know, sometimes we would have something such as, you know, experience where they need to be professional or, you know, do things in a timely manner. To me, that's not a requirement. You know, requirement would be bullet points where you include every single topic in that role that you want to see on that candidate. We don't want to include any, you know, fluff or anything on there that you don't require. It's basically just tangible information that you want that candidate to have. So under that, excuse me, let's see here. Okay, so under that, we've got our preferred qualifications. This, of course, I mean, speaks for itself. It's, you know, preferred. It's not must-haves. It's, hey, if we can have this, great. If not, that's okay. We're going to go back to the requirements and look at this is what's required. This is what, again, what the recruiters are going to be looking at. So when we are sending candidates, again, we're looking for that 70%. They have to meet 70% of the requirements. So that's where it's important to have every single thing that you need in there. Relevant experience, you know, that's going to be the number of years or type of experience that you want this candidate to possess. For example, it says 10 years of operational space or 3 years of embedded software experience. Under that, we've got education. That's going to be the lowest degree level that we are going to be considered. So under all the SES positions, besides the college interns, we do require a bachelor's degree. And then, of course, under that, we've got this year security clearance. So whenever you are, doing these position descriptions, it's really important to make sure that we have every single detail in there whenever we send it to the recruiters. Because as those recruiters, whenever we get these descriptions, we take it and we go and look for that exact person. Now, if there's something missing on that, we might be, sourcing for a candidate for 2 weeks. We find a candidate that meets those requirements. Oh, well, we send it to whomever, and it gets sent back that they're missing whatever, and it's not on the requirements. So what that then does is, it's basically 2 weeks of sourcing and talking to the candidates kind of gone. So I know it can be frustrating on your end, not getting someone sent over to you. And it can be frustrating for us too, not sending you guys the exact person that you're needing. So really, whenever you're doing this, take your time. Make sure you have every single detail in there that you need, because we are going to try to do our absolute best to send you that person. Now, it really comes down to that teamwork and make sure that we have everything in this. Something that we're going to start doing is anytime we get a new position, we are going to kind of do like a tag team meeting with that group lead. So for instance, if Deanna pulls out a position and she sends us to the recruiting team, what we then are going to want to do is we're going to want to meet with Diana for maybe 10, 15 minutes, get her take on the role, talk about where we might find some good candidates, where she might have seen candidates with this type of experience. Basically, get to know the lead, get to know the position. That way, there's no excuses on our end, and we can make sure that we get that right person, and we know exactly what we're looking for. There's no ifs, ands, or buts, because we've already had that meeting. We know exactly what we're going to go for, and let's go and do it. Let's see here. Any questions on any of that so far? Okay, awesome. Here we've got the continued descriptions. So required, it's going to be tangible, the degree, the level, the certifications, year of experience. Here on the right side, we've got desireds compared to the preferred. So the preferred, it's not tangible must-haves. It's, hey, it would be nice if the candidate has this. If not, that's still not going to disqualify them because they are meeting the required. So for instance, I was kind of mentioning this earlier, excellent communication skills, we were seeing that under the required. I mean, most people, hopefully, that we're going to be representing are going to have the excellent communication skills because that's why we sent them over. So we're going to put that into our preferred. It's not going to be a requirement. So here under that, we've got more examples of don't list as well as list instead. It's kind of, I mean, you can read that and it's pretty much verbatim of what we're going to be looking at. So any questions on any of that before we continue?
I want to interject. This is Melissa too. We're all kind of just going to interject if we think of things, but I think one of the challenges we've been seeing with the position descriptions and when we send people over for interview is that we know the group leads are all working with their tech teams, and their tech teams, they typically will get comments and feedback about the candidates we're sending from their tech team. We've had several people that we've sent over that the tech teams have said, no, they're not going to work for one reason or the other. There's 3 candidates in particular that we've sent over just recently that were declined that all met the 70% criteria, and that would be Melissa Wood, Stephen Gant, and Sam Bishop. So those 3, the tech team said no to because they maybe weren't the perfect purple spotted unicorn for the job, but we literally have re-reviewed everything in the requirements. We've looked at education, we've looked at years of experience, and all 3 of these people were declined interviews and they meet the 70% rule. So what's confusing to us is we're like, what are we missing? Do the group leads need to go back to the tech team and revise the position description? Is the description not working correctly? Is it not accurate? Or should all three of these people be interviewed? And that's what we're saying, is we think these three people should be given a shot. One was for spacecraft power and thermal subsystem engineer, one for a configuration manager, and one for a software developer C++. So I want to get your feedback, because this is it's a call where we're wanting feedback from you guys, but I feel like there's some disconnect either with the tech team and the group lead on what the position description should have in requirements, or they're still thinking we have to find the 95% match when we've been told we're moving forward with 70% matches. We need to get these roles filled. And that's what we're recruiting for. I mean, we want to find you 100% matches, but what's doable and possible and what we're, doing, because we do want to mention to you guys, I think a lot of you have this idea that we have lots of people applying. For the most part, we very rarely have anyone apply for any position. We have a few people apply here and there. We are finding all of these people cold by sourcing, by emailing, LinkedIn, texting, calling, and scouring we're looking at 40 different social media profile pages. And that's what we're reviewing, and that's how we're finding these candidates. So we're finding them from scratch, and a lot of them are not responding. When they do respond and we can get a match, then we've got to look at, do they have the education? So just finding one or two people that are qualified for some of these roles has been a challenge. And we just want to make sure everybody is in the loop on that we don't have just streams of candidates organically applying. That's just not, the market is so competitive right now. You're fighting and clawing for any candidate you can find. So, I just want to open it up. Does anybody have any questions on this part or anything on your side you want to walk through?
Melissa, this is Jamie.
Hey, Jamie.
Hi. So GLs, and I know we have task leads and other folks here from the contract. We received feedback from Jerome in the last day about the lack of movement of jobs in a lot of cases. And so whether it be right now and we talk about these three, or we wait till the end of this meeting and we talk about those three, as far as I'm concerned, those three candidates need to be interviewed by your teams, because Jerome is paying attention and wants some answers on why we're not moving these roles through. So I need you to understand that we need to give candidates a shot, especially given the market conditions that Melissa just described.
And I think the other thing that we're seeing, and I totally understand, like people just looking at a resume and disqualifying someone. The concern with that is a lot of resumes are not particularly well written. And unfortunately, we don't have the time to have every candidate rewrite a resume before we submit. So we really want to make sure you're looking at the notes. We try to extract additional information, maybe that is not on the resume. And I'll tell you, sometimes there's 30 to 50% more information there than meets the eye that is not on a resume. So I think that's probably tempting to just really quick glance through a resume and make a decision, or to assume things about a candidate based on what you're seeing. But yeah, that's not maybe the best practice, because really our notes, that's why we spend an hour in an interview with them, giving them all this information. So we want to make these notes and send people that are win-wins every single time. That's what our goal is. And hopefully, like Rita's saying, we're going to start having these kickoff meetings where we're getting the nitty-gritty from you guys from day one. And if there's anything that's off and we don't have on the position description, we can get that fixed from the get-go, instead of what we've been seeing some of is, oh, well, that's not really a requirement, or, oh, I know we said we wanted a mid, but now we want a senior, and we might have wanted this initially, but now we want this. All those changes, like he was saying, really throw back our search, where we're basically starting from scratch all over again to find different people with different amounts of experience or different types of experience. So I think these kickoff meetings and getting these PDs right is going to be essential to us progressing and moving forward in a really efficient way. Christina, do you want to weigh in? Or
my only weigh in is, I think until we get positions filled and everyone starts understanding jobs now, any candidate that's kicked over from our recruiters need to be interviewed. No more basing off of just looking at a resume. If our recruiters have spent time and think they're qualified, I want them interviewed.
I might want to interject for a second. The one thing I know, when there's certain things written down, but there's also and I know it's tough to find people, but if you put the wrong person in a position, you will fail on the execution of the task. It is a niche.
That,
No, let me finish.
If you interview someone, you're not going to know just based off their resume if they're the wrong person.
You could tell pretty easily people are missing certain things if you're getting 70%. Because, for example, if you're doing flight software and you have no, I mean, if you know C++, that's not a huge thing. I mean, every kid, a sophomore or more in any computer science class knows that. So it's not just C++, it's a very niche-y part of C++, which is real-time programming, for example. So if you ignore a piece like that, I think, as I say, you're going to bring in someone who's totally unqualified, and it's very difficult for a technical lead for a group to have people that on their project that don't know what they're doing and don't understand basic concepts.
So Charlie, with all due respect.
Charlie, this is Jim.
Sure. That's my comment.
Jim, I'm talking over you. Jerome disagrees, and he's the boss. He thinks that it's our job to train those people in the skills that they're lacking if they meet 70%. It's our job. So I hear what you're saying, and I get it. And I've been at NASA my whole career, and I know what these customers want. I get it. But, we're being held to account right now.
No, I understand.
But not filling jobs, I think if we fill it with the wrong person and then we have to make a swap because we realize 3 months down the road we make a swap, that's one thing. But not filling the job at all is getting a ton of attention.
Well, I think what you're saying about training is a separate subject, which actually we've been talking a lot about. We're actually creating a learning thing called Foggy Lake, which we could talk about offline, that we could then train. But so there's some really cool ideas with training, which I actually think is a super, super valid point. But as I say, if you're in an active project and you're building stuff and you have people that don't know a lot of the functionalities, they're more time than they're worth, and it becomes a bad situation. Now, if you have one person on your team, you can kind of bring them up to speed. You get too many, it becomes very difficult to be successful. And then you fail PDRs and you start having other interactions, which Drim will be less happy with. And actually the project will start getting involved because the projects, control the budget. So hence they are very involved and kind of know the skill sets of what's going on. So anyway, I just wanted to give that little 2 cents that I don't know if the 70% rule, there might be some things I would suggest that you put on that absolutely have to be there. Like, for example, if it's a real-time, if it's a flight software position, at least some real-time program or now, one of these things have to be there. That you don't meet 70%, there's a few must-haves in that list. Because if you're missing the 30% that actually matters, I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing. So just a suggestion.
Charlie, Jim Robertson, how are you?
Great, how are you?
Yeah, and I hope we've made this, I'm doing all right. We want to make this perfectly clear that the PD and the required versus desired is what makes this work. If you have got, as a technical individual, I'm the guy that says these are the required tasks or skills that you've got to have. So, like you said, if you don't really need C++, that's in the desired. If you got to have it, no big deal. So we're only as good, the recruiters are only as good as the technical guys that create the PDs that satisfy the job, So the PDs are so important to get correct and make sure that the recruiters know you've got to have the 5 things under the required section, or you're really not going to move forward with that person. The desired stuff is nice to have. Now, from the training standpoint, again, the companies can and certainly train, but we're required to bring trained up, ready to go people to fill the positions. You can negotiate that to some degree, and rarely there's training dollars and things like that, but typically we want a person ready to go when they jump in. But that's negotiable from the guy's got a C+ and you want to get them to the next level, things like that. But these PDs are so important, and they've got to be correct, and they've got to be detailed.
Well, and it's kind of a catch-22. It's like and I feel for people recruiting because, Goddard's, I'll give you my 2-second quick history on Goddard. It's it's been a great place to work, and people have stayed there forever. So people jump from job to job. So you got people with lots of experience and all the right check boxes, and they jump from job to job. Now people are retiring. So you don't have that backfill of new talent, and there's a big missing hole in the middle, and nobody wants to deal with that missing hole.
Yeah.
So in a way, that's what's going on. And
Yeah.
I understand everyone's perspective, but I also understand if I was, when I'm managing a project, you want, you need skilled people, because otherwise you're not going to succeed. I mean, you could train a few people, but it gets really difficult to have a unskilled team.
For sure.
And there's
For
more
sure.
and more of that problem going on, and it's not the recruiter's fault. It's just simply the age of the folks working at Goddard. There's more people retired. There's, the skill set has kind of left, and and Goddard wasn't smart, and they knew it at the time of bringing in new talent, because they didn't want to solve the problem. They wanted the person they were paying more for the person with the skills. So that's, kind of
And yeah,
how we got here.
and
I'm not saying
equally
that's the
equally as
solution, but at
important.
least that's, my perspective.
No, that's good. Equally as important as the PDs we're going through, and I don't know if you're going to get into this, Melissa, is the process by which we move a person through the interviews, and having technical people interview. The hiring managers should know the job inside and out, so that we vet a candidate properly and thoroughly, and so that when either we go to a task monitor or whatever, we get thumbs up. We pretty much already done our homework on making sure the person's ready to go, and qualified. So that process is very important as well, but it all starts with SPD.
We actually will go through that here in a minute. And I appreciate everybody. We all appreciate the comments. We know it's not easy to bring in someone that's not 100% ready to go, boots on the ground. That's obviously our goal. We're going to get you people as close as we can to being that 100%. But we are looking at the 70% rule, because, we want to get people in front of you that could start doing the job. And unless we're filling 17 roles in one department, hopefully we aren't going to get you filled with a lot of people in a row that maybe don't meet 100% of the quals. You'll have occasionally one or two here or there that you can absorb and get up to speed. So I appreciate your comments. We think with better PDs and better communication on the front end, we're going to be able to hit this better and better. We just need to work as a team to get that done. So we'll be trying to schedule kickoff meetings with a lot of you, just to make sure we have everything we need, and try to make sure that the position descriptions are lining up. Everything's on there that needs to be. So we'll kind of make that our next step. We're going to go ahead and go to the next slide, just because we don't want this to take too long. So labor categories, I know Christina wanted to kind of review this with you guys, so I'm going to send it to her.
Yeah, so I was just going to go over, we have internal labor categories that are HR labor categories that you'll see over to the left. And then that we align the government labor categories that were given to us, that y'all are all aware of: the mid-level, senior level principal, senior principal, and chief level, and the years of experience and the education that follows with them. So we just kind of wanted to throw it out there, give it to y'all again, just so that whenever you're creating job descriptions, that you know exactly what is required for each level. And then you don't have to really worry about the MCSG labor categories. That's something we handle on the HR side. But if you ever see a job posting, or if someone's labor category, when it comes across in offer letters, etc., have journeyman, craftsman, SME levels, you can kind of see how we get there and what the labor category is. This section is just solely just so you have the years of experience for each one. And so that it helps whenever you're building the job descriptions.
Yes, we have seen quite a few people submit position descriptions that want 5 years of experience. And the only category that has 5 years and an associate's is the data technician. So there's not even a labor category for 5 years. So they either need to have 3 or 7, but we can't do the 5. So just FYI, several of the jobs that were submitted had 5, and we were trying to correct those or see them on the top. I think we still have, is software developer or
Software
software developer was changed from 3 to 5. So we just need to know, should that be 3 or 7? So, who's working on that one? Is that Deanna? Okay, so whichever group lead, I'm sorry, I don't have them all memorized yet. I have to look at my chart. But if you could let us know if you want 3 or 7 for that one, that would be really helpful. Any questions on the labor categories? These are, this is established with NASA, and all these requirements are requirements from the contract. So we didn't make any of this up or anything. But any questions on the labor categories?
We've done a few exceptions along the way. Years of experience, more like if you have, then I forget the number, but 5 years of experience is equal to a BS, or might have been 4 years. Is any of that ever absorbed into this, or do we, for all new hires, we require the full, meeting of the requirement? And part of the requirement too was the type of degree, not just a bachelor's of science in engineering. Do we carry that information in forth too? Or are we just saying a bachelor of science is equal to a bachelor of science?
No, each labor category does have the education to where it's either like computer science or an engineering. I'm just not listing that all on the slide there. So you will need to refer and put the correct education that they're gonna have to have. There is a waiver policy that we do have. But from my understanding that I've heard from group leads, it's really hard to get a waiver right now. Or they're not wanting to do waivers. So unless Jamie or the group leads are telling me differently, we want to try sticking to what the requirements are. Is that correct? We're not really wanting to do waivers unless we absolutely
Yeah, we
have
got
to.
feedback. Yes, Christina, we got feedback from Jerome, Charlie, that he doesn't want to consider waivers for these new positions. That does not include the waivers that were submitted during transition, which we're trying to package up and get submitted within the next couple of weeks. But it's that was related to incumbent personnel. So for new folks, he's not really, wanting to consider waivers at this point.
It's kind of interesting to me, given that, he really wants us to push on getting folks in here, and, he's willing to bend down to, 60 or 70% of the requirements. And then, we've accepted waivers for a long time. And I know this is, gone back for it, but I found it interesting that, he's kind of thinking another way when it comes to waivers. So it's just my 2 cents, but.
Yeah, all these things kind of make it add to the challenge of getting the right folks for you guys, but we're just going to keep plugging away and doing everything we can. So if you have any other questions on labor categories, let us know. We're gonna go ahead and move to the position, like you guys submitting job posting requests. Can you drive for me and get on Paycom?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna switch the screen for you. Let me review this really quick and then we'll switch over to the Paycom screen. So I know this is really little, but basically what the job posting request does is you guys are able to give us all kinds of information when you submit the position description. And what's working really well on all of our other contracts is that you guys could work with Anita in the PMO office. When you create a position description, you basically are going to create it. She's going to review it, make sure everything looks good on labor categories, and you guys will send it to us. Once we have the position description, we'll load it into the Paycom library so it's ready for you to be able to select. And then typically one of us will email you and say, hey, when you select it, be sure to select this one. And we can usually give you like a job code so you can just find it really easily in the drop-down menu. You'll actually select that job and then you'll supply job posting request information. So I'm going to show you this because it can get kind of hard to go through this verbally. So when you're in Paycom, and we are going to follow this training up, we wanted to do a live presentation, but we have actually a video training as well as a step-by-step document so that you guys will have everything at your fingertips. when you go into Paycom, but we just wanted to show you live how you would do this. So basically, you're going to go to this applicant tracking page. You just go into talent acquisition and click on applicant tracking, and that's how you get to this page. And then you're going to scroll down to create requisition. And you're gonna, this is where you're like, I'm gonna create a requisition. I'm gonna submit a job posting request. You'd click position and then continue. And then you're basically going to say, what family is this in? It's in the SES.
No, it's an MCSG. That'll be taken away.
Okay, I'm sorry. That's going to be taken away. So you'll just click MCSG. Okay. So MCSG, and then this is where you'll actually select a specific job. So let's say we're going to select, I'm just going to pick one. Okay. I mean, it doesn't have to be the right one. Once you select this position, if you scroll down, you'll notice this has already populated the job description for you. So it takes care of that. If you're filling for, like, is this a replacement? Are you backfilling? You're going to select replacement or an additional person. Seasonal and evergreen are going to be rare. Seasonal would be maybe like an intern job, or evergreen is not going to be something that you're going to need to worry with. We just do that on the recruiting side. How many positions? If there's one or two. On the recruiter, you can just put one of us. So Reed, Melissa, Dakota, you can just grab one of us, and then whoever the hiring manager is. We're preloading hiring managers, so you'll be able to select from, you know, anybody in your department. You'll be able to select their name. The location is really important. If it's at NASA Goddard or NOAA or wherever, we have that in there. So just be looking. You're going to see NASA or NOAA. Those are already preloaded. If there's any location that you need that's not in there, just let us know. We can get that added. So you can double check. The job should be exactly what you submitted to us because it's loaded in the library. This is the important part. This is the job posting request. So basically what this does is it allows you to tie in all the critical contract information, task order, what contract, the name of the position, who we're backfilling, so that all of this information is attached to that rec the whole time it's in. So that keeps everything very accurate, and we can go back to this and look at all these details. Plus, it requires you to say whether it's on a mod or is the funding secured, because let's face it, if the funding isn't secured, we don't need to be posting the job or wasting time on recruiting. The shifts, if there's a variety of shifts they need to work, that is super helpful information. Any detail you can put on that is very, very helpful so that we can know that when we're recruiting people. On travel, if they're going to travel, say 10% of the year or 25% of the year, you would put that in. And it's also really helpful to tell us whether it's CONUS, OCONUS travel, and whether they'll be traveling for like 4 weeks at a time or just a week or two at a time, to kind of know how the travel is dispersed throughout the year. That's also really helpful when we recruit, because people are trying to figure out daycare and school pickup and all those details. We want the proposed salary range for the level that you're going to be doing, who the time approving supervisor is, if that's different than the hiring manager. If it's the same, you'd put the same name here. And then anything else you think would be helpful for us to know about the role.
It's remote if it's.
Yeah, if it's remote, 90% of the time. People ask us about remote all the time, and we don't really know all the differences in remote from the different departments. It's kind of hard to keep up with. So that's a great thing to put right there, is whether they work, 70-30, a hybrid, 70% at home, 30 at the center, whether you require them always at the center. That is great information. Anything else you guys can think of that's helpful that they could put in comments? I'm asking Reed and Dakota. That's all that we can think of right now. So once you click submit, that allows our team, then it will show requested, and we'll get a notification in our email that we have something to go and approve. We'll review it, and then once we click OK, it will post that job, and all of this job posting data will be with it, so that there's never a concern about task orders or whether it's funded or anything like that. So I wanted to see who has questions on any of this process. I know it's a little bit to get used to, but like I said, we are going to send you follow-up step-by-step instructions. So you have these.
Can the boilerplate descriptions or information requirements, can those be edited?
They can, absolutely. So typically, if it's a job that we haven't filled in a little bit, that's where if you send us the PD in like a Word version ahead of time and say, hey, this has been updated and tweaked. And what we'll do then is go compare it to what we have in the library and update the library one. And then we'll let you know, hey, when you go to select it, when you're submitting your job posting request, select this one. It's been updated the way you need it to be. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. Any other questions? Okay, and this is also, you guys, a really helpful tool for you because if you might not be able to find a position description, we have all these in the library. So just ping one of us. It's not hard. We can throw it in a Word document and get it over to you. We know you guys are busy. So we're not trying to make this difficult, but what we don't know a lot of this information. So it's really important that it's being captured in this submission process. That's where you guys help us a ton by providing all this information. And believe me, we use it. We use all this information. A lot of this information goes straight into the new hire notifications that we send out when people are hired, or we use a lot of it during interviews to go over specific details about the job. So we appreciate all this info. Any other questions on this part? Okay, like I said, we'll follow up and send you the written instructions and video instructions on how to do this after this and make sure you all have login information into Paycom. So we'll get that out to you. We're going to go to the next slide, which is on salary. And I think that's Christina.
Salary is my section. So I just wanted to, I know we've kind of touched base on this before, but just want to go over again that, you know, we do equal pay for the same duty, same experience. It doesn't matter, like you can't have the same experience, same education, and just change the job title and expect to be able to pay someone differently. So if there is justification on why we're doing it, then that's fine. And this is different justification and waiver than what we would submit over to the government for the job requirements. This is just something we have to have if there is pay discrepancy between people, just for our affirmative action plan. But just a reminder that we keep job titles, labor categories, experience, education the same unless we have justification for it. We just kind of wanted to touch base on that again. So if you have someone that you're wanting and that they're making $10,000-$15,000, but more than someone else that we have, most likely that's not going to happen unless you can provide me justification on why we're doing it. So just kind of wanted to keep that in mind.
Okay, so the next one on candidate submission. I can't remember, were you gonna go over that? Okay, so we have our first interview. Basically, in the first interview, every candidate we talk to, once we source them, we set up a first interview. They're typically like phone or Teams calls. We meet with the individual, we pre-screen them for everything that's required in the position description, education, experience. We talk to them about salary, we tell them all about benefits. If they have a clearance, that is checked before we submit them to you so that we know exactly where their clearance level is. So all of that is done first interview, and if they meet all the criteria, then we submit them for review to the hiring manager. We submit
One thing I would
notes.
suggest for the first interview is also find out if they have a Goddard badge. The only reason it's taken a couple months to get it, so it would be a plus for some positions.
Okay.
That's good enough.
Absolutely. Okay. So then on the submission to hiring manager, we submit notes and resume, and we're going to start doing that via Paycom, and that will be a separate email that we'll be sending you. It's very easy. Once you start getting in there doing your job submission or job posting request, you guys will be able to go into Paycom and start reviewing candidates, and it will send you like email reminders of, hey, you have a candidate to review. You'll click on it and go to these screens and review it. For right now, we're going to be sending you the notes and resumes via email, but we will be transitioning over the next month where you can just go in the system and review it, and it's really simple. So that's kind of forthcoming, but we always have notes and we'll always have the resume. Once you guys have like decided if you're interviewing, let's say you're interviewing, we do have feedback that you can provide in the system where you can say, hey, we want to set up an interview for this time. We'll be going over an evaluation form in a minute that anytime you interview, you do need to submit this interview evaluation form back to us. And it's a very quick, easy form to fill out. It'll be neutral. Dakota's going to go over that with you. So that's something that we will need back from you guys. It's just important that, you know, just keep everything very professional in the notes because we can get audited by that when, and we want to make sure everything's good to go. We always make sure that the candidate applies to the rec before we submit them over to you guys. So they're always an active candidate in the system. That's really it. I mean, on the back side, post interview, we can kind of get into that in a minute. There's a lot of steps we do once we want to make an offer and move forward in that. But this is sort of the interview to submission stage. Any questions on anything we do on our side before we send them over, or any questions that you guys might have? Okay, the do's and don'ts, Christina, if you'll.
So this is just a quick reminder. I know everyone has been doing this a while, but just a reminder of the things that you can ask in an interview and the things that you shouldn't ask in an interview. Here's a few of them, but we can also send out the hiring manager handbook to everyone that's on this email, because I'm not sure that all of the task leads that have joined have access to the hiring manager handbook, but it's just a more in-depth of our whole process of hiring. And then there's a whole list of do's and don'ts. Obviously this is very important because you can get in trouble for what you ask and do not ask in an interview. So we just want to make sure that, you know, you just remember all of the things that you should not ask in an interview. Okay.
Yeah, any questions on that part?
Yeah, hi, this is Amir. I do have a question. So this
Sure.
means that when we get a resume, it will have salary requirements on it. Otherwise, I'm interviewing someone that might be out of my range.
So on that, Amir, and that's a good question. So whenever we're sending candidates over to you all, we are submitting over the resume.
Sure that in the interview notes that you know if they're in the salary requirements for the level that we're submitting them over for. Yes. So we will not send anyone over that is out of the salary requirements for that labor category unless, and if we do, we will tell you that they're out of the salary range.
Right.
So whenever you
Yeah.
get submitted over, like Reed was saying, you'll get their resume, interview notes, and if they're in the salary range.
Right.
We will not submit anyone over without you knowing if they're not in the salary range.
And what
Okay,
we tried
that would
to do.
be great. But having said that, you know, from time to time, if we have a desperate situation in which we've been looking for a candidate for a very long time, but he comes higher, we have flexibility in our task. I just want to know when a resume is submitted, regardless of whether it's in range or out of range, would I get that individual salary requirement?
I don't know. We'll talk about it and we'll get back to you.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I will say this, Amir, what we try to do is say, we'll put a note. Let's say we interview someone and they're super sharp and we think, you know, gosh, they're way high powered for a mid. What we've been doing is saying this person has more experience than the mid. They actually meet the senior or the senior principal labor category, and that is more in line with their salary requirement. Are you
Okay.
open to hiring at a higher level? And we give you that option so that you know they're too high powered for the mid, which is what we have posted, but they would meet the quals for these other labor categories, and they're more in line with those salaries. So we try to put that like a note on there so you guys know and can let us know if you're open to hiring at the higher levels. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Makes perfect sense.
Okay, because
I
we're
really
with you. We don't
appreciate
want to
that.
throw candidates out that could
Yeah.
possibly be considered. Absolutely. Yeah. Good
Thank
question.
you. That would be great.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so I think the interview about Dakota is going to kind of tell a little bit about it. So go one back. There we go. Okay.
Okay, so once you guys have talked to the candidate and discussed a major decision, the next thing we're going to need is the interview eval form. And I believe Anita has those for distribution for whoever needs them. But it's just kind of your basic review of the candidate, whether they researched the company or not, whether they had good interpersonal skills, whether they're going to be a fit or not. And basically just any comments you have on the candidate where we may have missed the mark, things that they do exceptionally well, or anything we need to look for going forward with other candidates. Those things will be sent to us and uploaded into Paycom, so they do need to be in line with any sort of like government regulations and anything like that, because they will be, they are up for audit if anything comes of them. So people will be reviewing the notes as well. But it gives us a good baseline to know where we hit the mark, where we missed it, what we can do going forward if it's not the right person, or it just gives us a simple yes, let's go ahead and move forward with it, and we can get the wheels turning on that.
Absolutely, yeah.
Nothing too crazy about that, but any questions or concerns with it, anything like that?
If someone provides a salary, are we allowed to put it down? I know you're not allowed to ask the question, but are you allowed to document it?
You can document it, yes, if they bring up salary, but don't commit or like talk about the salary is all I'm
I
asking.
got you. Well, that makes sense. A lot of times I've found people bring it up and it's always a good question.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I get that. I don't want you to be like, oh, sorry, I can't do this. But yeah, you're more than welcome to document it.
Yeah, if they bring it up and it is going to be too high for what we're looking for, you can make a note that unfortunately this would probably be better suited for a senior or something like that. Just politically worded kind of thing.
Yeah. Any more questions on that one? Okay, we're about to wrap up. We have one more slide, and then I think we're going to give it over to Jim. So, are you doing it?
Yep, so this is pretty simple. So after the interview, what recruiting is going to be doing is, if we get a yes, we're going to be making the offer. We then send it to onboarding and send out a new hire notification. Basically, what those new hire notifications say, it's going to have the candidate, it's going to have their tasks, it's going to have their job, it's going to have their start date. It's basically going to have all the pertinent information that you as leads will need to approve that offer letter, make sure it all lines up with you as well as your team. And then you would get with Anita on reporting instructions. So whatever that first day is going to look like, whether you want them to show up on site at 9, 8, whatever it might be, you're going to need to have that in there. So that way, whenever the candidate is starting, they know exactly where they need to be. They know exactly where they need to go, and will be set and ready to hit the ground running.
We have added the NASA badge number as well as any NASA email to the new hire notification email template. So we will include that and ask anyone who is previously NASA those questions and have that in the new hire notification for all the leads as well.
Any questions? Awesome.
Okay, if you guys think of other questions, let us know. Like we said, we're going to send you follow-up information. We are wanting you guys from this point forward, and correct me if I'm wrong, Christina, that anytime they have a job, we're going to do you guys verify that we have the position description, send it to us originally in email. And once we say, yep, it's good, it's in the library, you guys can do your job posting request. We are going to need you guys to start doing it that way, so that we have all the information we need in the system and we can make sure we're getting you the right folks. So we will be sending out emails to everybody with that information, just so you have how to do these things step by step in videos. But if you're having problems, we're all here for you. So definitely let us know. We can always set up a Teams call real quick and run through something if you're having a problem or a question. We are going to turn this over to Jim. I think he had a couple things he wanted to show you guys on Empowered Portal before we close the meeting up.
Hey, thanks, Melissa. Can everybody see the screen?
We can.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Good. So my name is Jim Robertson. For those I haven't met, I'm the director of the MCSG PMO. So basically handling a lot of the other contracts. But I've been asked to go over MCSG's Empowered PM portal, which you can equate to, it is our business enterprise system for managing contracts. You can kind of equate it to eBiz, a lot of functionality. And I'm going to get through it really quickly. We're not going to step through all these because in the interest of time. And if you want to see any more of this, just give me a call. But what I'm trying to convey is that for the JV and for the PMO and the management of the contract, where there's a lot of functionality here, along with, of course, the eBiz system, but that that works very well. This is about, I don't know, 15 plus years in the making. We've worked, we've vetted out workflows, et cetera, for several functions. We're almost pretty much audit proof on a lot of things here. All of this functionality is backed up with our quality management system. Every one of these things has an instruction with it. So we do very well when the auditors come looking. So I'm going to go through a couple of these things because some of them apply from a PMO JV standpoint, and some of this function is mandated to be used, but certainly by MCSG folks, and others are suggestions, or you may want to mirror this for the PMO. So I'm just going to go from top to bottom here. First, we're action items. I know, for example, we just came out of several meetings back in December out in Maryland. I sit in Colorado Springs, by the way. And we came away with about 50 action items. I don't know what's going on with eBiz on action items or what's happening in the PMO. Jamie could certainly jump in, but we track our action items out of all our contracts formally. And when you go into here, there's a workflow, and there's a person working it, there's a person reviewing it, and there's an approval process, and it works really well, and it's a good system, something you may want to mirror with the PMO if you don't have already. Charge codes for MCSG folks only, I believe this is. Christina sent out instructions, very simple, very effective, but this is a mandated process that needs to be used for the MCSG hires.
Can I jump in real fast on charge codes?
Say it again.
I want to jump in real fast on charge codes. Whenever I sent out the email, I wasn't very specific on the naming. Whenever you are putting your name in the project name for the charge code when you're requesting it, if you will make sure the task number and subtask number is in there also, you can still put like your name like the name of the task in there, but finance, it's easier for finance to pull it by the task number and subtask number. So if you just make sure that you're including that somewhere in the request, that will help Jordan be able to get the charge codes assigned faster without having to reach back out and bug you guys.
Can you see the PDF?
Do
No.
what?
I pulled up your PDF, Christina. I don't know if you can see it.
It's still showing the Empowered PM.
Yeah, and I can edit the PDF and put a sample in there with the task number in there, but as long as you're including the task number and if it has a subtask number in the name, that's all they're needing.
Okay, very, very simple, straightforward procedure for charge codes. The other issue is if you have a charge code, I don't know how many tasks have travel, and if there's separate travel charge codes, just make sure you're identifying that as well. A big one for us, certainly MCSG, and I think the JV is, for the entire team, I should say, is customer feedback. Here we track positive and negative customer feedback. Again, with the PMO, if you're getting feedback from your customer, figure a way to track it. You could use this system, I suppose. But when you have negative customer feedback, it usually kicks off an action item. We want to mitigate that negative feedback. We want to address it, take care of it. So this is a good way to do that. Again, when it goes in, there's a workflow. The appropriate people are notified, and we track that very closely. Deliverables are through your eBiz and through the PMO, so that's not going to be used here, I don't believe. Everybody jump in and tell me otherwise. The risks, financial, the performance risks, nonconformities, again, I don't believe we'll be using these functions for SES 3, but I would, I don't know if eBiz has a risk module, but if it doesn't, I would highly recommend the PMO develop something. The biggest thing, obviously, on any contract is managing risk, one of the biggest things. So, again, what this is about is for you to understand what's here, what you might be able to kind of steal and copy and work. And we have the instructions around these things, and you might be able to kind of pilfer some of this stuff to set up the PMO and management systems out there if they're not already resident in eBiz, or to use these if that's what it comes down to, because MCSG's processes are very, very well proven out. We've used them on many contracts. A big one here is meeting minutes, and we have a lot of. So once you go into here, and I'm not gonna go inside because my internet is really slow. I'm working from home, but inside these meeting minutes are many templates for the different meetings you may hold, a PMR, a project startup, things of that nature. And there's templates you just fill out. There's drop-down menus, very easy. Attach notes from the meeting, and you post it. And it's really good. This is something that a lot of the auditors want to see, that you're tracking your meetings, you are following up with actions, etc. So really, really good. We use that every day here at MCSG. Moving down past performance, this is something Jamie and I had talked about a while back for about 3 minutes, but very shortly, we are probably going to put a stronger effort into capturing task past performance. It's very important. We want to make sure we've got that captured for everything from CPARs to make it, we obviously using it for future going after future work and other work. So we'll probably put a big effort into this in a few months, and I'll help you guys out with that. In here, I'll hit this for a minute. The QPIs, as we call them, is our quality management system. If it does, in fact, come up here, each of our processes that we're going over here has an instruction that corresponds to it, and each of these details out the as you can see, hopefully you can see that. All of these relate to a specific process. And believe it or not, the auditors, the CMMI guys, those kinds of folks love this stuff. Making sure you've got your quality management system up and running. We actually use it, and we can show them down to the detail. Our processes, procedures, instructions, and these are they're detailed, but they're fairly simple. But again, for you PMO folks and kind of middle and senior management folks, these are great to grab onto and when you're creating your own system, if we get to that point. I've got one up here. Let me see. Yes. Again, I don't know if you guys can see this. Can you see the QPI? Are you still seeing the empowered?
I'm seeing a blank screen. Like it's
You see a blank screen? Okay.
I see it trying to load something, but it's not loading.
That's us too.
Yeah, it shows, Jim, it shows that you're on the SharePoint,
Oh.
but it looks like it's still loading.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Phew. Let me reshare. So you guys aren't seeing any of this stuff I'm pointing out right now. Okay. Hang on a sec. Let's see if I can. Has that been the whole time, or did it blank out?
We saw like the empowered portal page that just had everything, but we didn't see any movement, at least on our side.
Oh, shoot. Okay. How we doing now? You see quality library?
It's
No.
It's
yeah, it
blank
shows-
now. There's no screen for me.
Really? Okay. Well, I apologize for that. I don't know what's going on. My internet's really slow.
Yeah, we get a dark screen, Jim.
Oh, all right. Well, you saw the initial list of functions. You kind of get the idea. So again, for PMO, the group leads, task leads, etc., there's a lot of functionality in this system. There's a lot of good procedures and process techniques that can be. I would not hesitate to say that for the JV, we could probably develop a lot of things inside the PMO, or use some of the functionality here in the empowered system, or to complement what goes on in UBiz. So I just wanted to throw that out to everybody. That's basically it. Just that you guys know it's here. It's something as a resource, and you can pull on, as well as me as MCSG's PMO. We're here to help you guys and support you guys. So if you need anything, you need processes, systems, workflow setup, drawn out, evaluated, process improvement stuff, just give me a call. All right, I'll leave it there. Any question? Well, let me throw out any questions at the moment. Okay, great. Thanks, Melissa and Christina.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks, everybody. Anybody else have questions before we close the meeting? Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna get a copy of the slide deck.
Copy of it. Sending out. Yes, we have it recorded, and then we'll be sending out copies of it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, thanks so much, everybody, for taking time out to join the call. We really appreciate it, and we'll be sending follow-up emails very shortly with all this information. We really appreciate it, you guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Take care. Appreciate it.